Hi, I'm Amy from Trees Not Teas. We offer runners the chance to turn down the finisher's tee at the end of a race and plant a tree instead. And today we are talking to Ajay Hanspal, who is one of the Green Runners. Hi, Ajay.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks very much for coming on to talk to us. It's great to see you. So you were the person who put this idea of making this kind of Green Runners group out there, weren't you?
Yeah, I guess so. I definitely came up with the idea and suggested it, and then sort of more qualified and knowledgeable people, yeah, took it forward and sort of put a plan into action and made it happen. So,
Okay.
yeah, I guess I came up with the idea, but that's sort of maybe the extent of my input.
I'm sure it's not. So what was it that made you think that there was a need for a group like this?
Well, I guess the catalyst was the COP26 summit last year. It was this sort of amazing platform and opportunity to create some real positive change and sort of forward progress in tackling climate change.
Mm-hmm.
And with this platform, nothing really seemed to happen.
Mm.
And at the time, I only started running probably about 6 to 8 months prior to COP26 actually happening. So I guess as many runners, sort of you spend a lot of time out in nature and exploring the outdoors, and you become quite connected with the environment.
Mm.
And I sort of tentatively noticed that a lot of runners perhaps were feeling the same way I was, that it was all a bit hopeless and, we want to do something. So yeah, I actually got in contact with my coach, Damien Hall, who you know very well. Yeah, and because I saw that he was at COP26 doing some direct action, and I sort of got in contact just to let him know that I was sort of feeling the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of little did I know, it was, yeah, a lot of runners were feeling as I was, that were frustrated about the lack of action. So there was this WhatsApp group that sort of I was added to, and it was just this community of runners who we all felt frustrated and all felt the same. And then sort of organically discussions were had of like, what can we do? We've got an amazing community of amazing people. And I guess our sport tends to attract brilliant people. But as sort of individual action's great, but as a community, if we could do something, that would go so much a lot like just further. So people were throwing ideas out there, and I just threw out the idea of how about a running club?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess that's how it all started. And people seemed to like that idea, and then we sort of naturally worked with each other and then got the Green Runners set up several weeks later.
It's fantastic, and it's absolutely, gone off and run with itself, hasn't it, so to speak?
Yeah, it really has. Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah, it's all gone so quickly. It was only 6 months ago or so that we were, just putting the ideas out there, and it's really snowballed. But I guess it's such a simple message, and it resonates with people, so it was bound to happen.
Absolutely. So I've talked previously with Chris and with Damien about the different areas that you were focusing on in Green Runners and how people make pledges within those different areas. So would you just be able to talk us through the pledges that you have made personally?
Yeah, of course. So my first pledge was to reduce my own carbon footprint. But also, having said that, it was important for me to sort of acknowledge that improving my own personal footprint is great, but the real change does really seem to need to come from sort of big industry and national government and international government. Mm-hmm. But having said that, I don't think it's a valid excuse to not sort of improve my own personal carbon footprint. So that was the first and main one. And sort of to that end, sort of as a household, we've cut down from 2 cars to 1 car. Right. I tend to only sort of make trips with the car when I really need to. Mm-hmm. And I'll tend to now sort of tie trips together. So if I'm going to go out for a long run and I know I've also got shopping to do, I need to visit that family member, I'll do it all at once. Right. Just to cut down on the mileage. And yeah, try and use my feet where possible. And sort of, yeah, be powered by myself.
That's fantastic.
So that's gone really positively, sort of limiting transportation and just basic things like changing my diet so that, I'd say I'm 99% plant-based, besides honey, which I just can't.
Can't give up the honey.
Can't give up. Yeah, and I think it's diet and travel which predominantly make up the largest proportion of people's personal footprint. And yeah, they've been easy changes to make for me. I wouldn't necessarily go out there and preaching and telling people that they have to go to the sort of same extreme extent that I have, because I'm quite fortunate whereby I can sort of work from home. So
Yeah.
limiting my travel is very easy for me, and for others it won't be. So that's fine. But I think it's just improving where you can to a reasonable extent, and then accumulatively as a group, that will make a massive difference.
Absolutely. So did you have any pledges? It's interesting what you were saying about the change needing to come from a slightly, more organizational level. What pledges have you made? I mean, obviously being part of Green Runners.
Yeah. So the second sort of big pledge was to take some sort of direct action, whether that's in the form of protests or directly contacting race organisers and brands. And that's a difficult one, because if talking to race directors, it's a difficult conversation, because I felt that I was only a runner, are they going to listen to me? But actually sort of the race directors we've spoken to as part of the Green Runners have been fantastic. So that direct action and communication has actually gone really well, and it seems that generally people are sort of quite receptive to have the conversation.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think that is worth bearing in mind, isn't it? You're not necessarily going to face a hostile response, which you might be expecting. People do tend to be quite open to these conversations. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the Green Runners has been sort of quite an incredible resource bank for people, including myself, because, as I sort of alluded to earlier, I just put the idea out there, and then more qualified people really took it forward. And, I've sort of met people who have such expertise across multiple fields, and we've sort of accumulated that all together as this amazing resource hub that people can tap into. And race directors will probably, and brands as well, will probably be quite receptive and keen to actually use us as a resource bank and actually have just positive, constructive conversation. Like, we're not there to criticize people at all.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's really great that, as an organisation, and also all the actions that people are taking individually. So thank you, Ajay. I really appreciate you talking to us today. And I'm so pleased that you had this idea for Green Runners, and that it's,
Not at all. It's a pleasure. I think that, in all honesty, sort of the Green Runners would have been there with or without my idea. I think someone else probably would have put it forward. Because, it's just such a simple message which resonates with so many runners, because we're all fairly like-minded.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. Thank you, Ajay. Thanks very much.
No worries at all.
Thank you.